Welcome to the first episode of Chezanny the Kitchen Table Conversation series. We are thrilled to connect with you. Today we will talk with two of my favorite men, Antonio Vargas, culinary expert and entrepreneur based in Montreal, Canada, and Michel Garzon, Colombian chef and software developer based in Helsinki, Finland. In the month when the world celebrates Valentine's Day and restaurants will be packed with people with the desire of a romantic meal or a lovely meal, we want to deconstruct the narrative of cooking as an act of love and talk about men home cooks and the dynamic of their masculinity in their home kitchens. Without further ado, here are Antonio and Michelle.
Hello. So for me, cooking as an act of love is to connect with others. For me, it's deeply personal, and it's how I show care and appreciation for my family and friends. Whether it's simple meal or elaborated dishes, like in a restaurant or in the previous workplaces where I have been, and and it's super important because you show the effort and how you think about the others and how important is food and how this will matter to the others, like how a relationship can go around food. So for example, professionally, I see in the way that is crafting experiences also, and it's not just about the taste, but it's creating a moment that the customers will remember. And cooking is about building relationships and celebrating life, for example. In It's my opinion.
Antonio.
Yes, for me, I don't have an answer. It's definitely it's an act of love personally. Of course, I choose this career because I love it and I love to cook and I love to give to people and feel comfort, feel happy. There's a lot of sensations that you can feel when you cook for somebody else. So I don't have a specific reason because it gives me different layers. I know there's people that love to eat, but there's also people that don't love to cook, and and sometimes food is not essential for them. It's just an act of it's a necessity, but it doesn't care the act of love sometimes. In my experience, it is an act of love, of course, in my surroundings, in my home, of course, with my friends, my family. But also, I feel that there's a disconnection, mostly in restaurants, because uh, the people who are in charge of making every single step on your dish are usually the ones that are less rewarded, or the ones that most of the time don't take credit because there's usually a top chef will be recognized rather than the cooks that work for him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a big team, especially if you work for a Michelin star restaurant or a big company. They are going to be the last ones that are going to be recognized. On the personal level, it's definitely an act of love. It brings me the idea of many ideas. One of is the anthropologist Margaret that talks about when was the first sign of humanity, and she says that when she recognized that there was a healing on a femur of an individual in certain stage of human history life. And I see that a bit in the deep level, how cooking, giving food to someone else has the same meaning, sort of.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, guys. To sort of connect these experiences and thoughts from you, Two, I also want to take this to the second level in order to start a conversation, but a continuous conversation around love versus value, and not necessarily just economical value, but there is this Professor Duriel Brooks, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. I recently read an article that he wrote trying to redefine love from a political approach, and I found his idea and concept and thinking, critical thinking, very interesting, because I want to use it to our main topic, which is kitchen and cooking, and the act of cooking as a loving act. And he says that if we don't look at love from a political, that we should look, he's inviting us to rethink and to look at love from a political approach, because if we don't, we miss the downfall, the negative aspect of this, which is that there are acts, that there are people that are more lovable than others. And that is so true, right? If we think about how we have been conditioned and socialized to think about beauty. There are some people that are more beautiful. There is a gender that is more valued. In order to continue our conversation, with a recent book that I read from Geraldine de Ruyter, who writes about food and cooking, and she observed how men chefs have been praised like celebrities, even though some of them have been accused of sexual harassment, for example. That side of them had been overlooked because of their praise, and their people know them as popular or kind of celebrities. That, in her opinion, has not happened to women chefs, in terms of, you don't know many women chefs that are popular or considered celebrities in comparison to men in numbers, just talking about numbers and data. But on the other hand, I was thinking about that she also mentions how men cooking in homes are considered of less value, and some of them in societies that are more patriarchal are considered as doing something women should be doing. And I think that's I mean, if we talk about millennials, I think that idea is absurd, because I think that millennials come from a different generation, and they don't have these binary problem distinguishing, oh, this should be something doing just by men, this should be something doing just by women. So I'll let you now share your experiences in regards of how you see now this cooking is an act of love with a political and economical and a social approach, talking about your experiences in restaurants when you were cooking at high-end restaurants, and how do you see that in comparison when you cook in your houses, in your homes, for your family? I don't know if you have received comments from people devaluing your masculinity because of this, or when you are with friends and you talk about how you care for your family, maybe some people would think less of you. Please share your experiences.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, especially because I think we are passing through different generation, and when I look a bit onto the past, the people that I look as idols, for example, in the kitchen, their generation was completely different than the one that I'm living now, and they were my figures when I was starting to cook.
Your role model.
My role models. That's
Yeah.
what I wanted to achieve, for example. So time has changed a lot from there. Just to mention a few of them, my favorite chef, of course, Marco Pierre White, still being my number one chef, I believe. He comes from a completely different generation. Uh, you see, Gordon Ramsay, he was training. Marco Pierre White was training Gordon Ramsay at the time, and the chaos and the screaming was just normal, and there was no distinction between, for me at least, from home cooking or restaurant. There was no home cooking; it was inexistent. It didn't was a thought for me, home cooking. It was just the way it should be. Just go to the restaurant, eat there, and in a professional level, try to be him or achieve that, achieve a Michelin star, to Michelin star, be famous, have people come to my restaurant. But the home cooking was completely illusional. It was something that didn't exist pretty much. So yeah, 10 times have changed for sure. In my generation, if I look at now, I think still that home cooking is not value at all. And I see it as myself because I started a company that does home cooking, and it's sort of invisible because I see that now women, they are also joining the workforce as much as men. And I think our society also, usually most of the time, parents require for both parents to work full-time jobs because it's the economy is the time that we live. Before, there was this invisible personality. If it was someone who worked at your house or it was a duty of the woman, it was there, but it was invisible. It was just something that happened. And now I see that with families that both parents are almost forced to have two full-time jobs. I think it makes kind of even harder because no one have time to cook at home. It's very difficult, and if you don't have the passion, if you don't have the culture, that it's on you to take care of your cooking, of your health, of your ingredients. If you don't have that for generations, it's very difficult. I see families who struggle with food, and I think that's very important to work on this generation and understand how important is this role at home for the entire family.
But in the cases of acts of love, like cooking, like your grandmother or or somebody helping in your house, the maid or the cook, or your any of your parents cooking, it's like it's an act that the receiver take for granted. But that's where I see a challenge for a future generation, how to see these acts of love with more intention, with more value, and not taking them for granted. That's when the market also might see professions and acts of love in a different way. I don't want to compete with capitalism. That's not my intention at all. But I just want to make certain acts of love more sexy.
I agree with Antonio's opinions, but since I live in different culture, like comparing to Canadian or American culture, the way that families nowadays see the opportunity to sit around the table to talk, to discuss about the day, to discuss how it went in the school, how was the work. So I think that also have changed here a lot because also
Here,
okay,
Finland, Helsinki.
in Finland, yeah,
Yes.
in Europe, in Finland. So here is a bit different because I think that food is highly appreciated, and I think that also social media have changed this matter a lot because well, for example, kids here have the opportunity to learn about how to cook. In that sense, it have evolved, let's say, differently, comparing to, for example, as well in South America. So now the responsibility of cooking, which is not, in my opinion, shouldn't be like a responsibility. It should be something that you should be able to show love to your family through food. I think that the new generations are more curious about cooking. I don't know if they cook with love, but they really, I think that they want to try out new things. Now they are more exposed to different dishes, different cultures, different ways of methods of cooking that used to be only for only one group of people that wanted to cook. Now it have changed, and I think that is good.
So the system pushes that somebody has to do the task of cooking, right? Otherwise, we would have social problems like health conditions. If children, if humans are not nurtured, then all the illnesses that come after that. I don't think yet that some societies see this value. I see the value when I cook for myself, for instance, and I have learned a lot of nutrition, chemistry, how to combine the right ingredients, how to use portions. So cooking has a huge level of knowledge, and chefs and cooks now know more. The career of nutrition has more people enrolled now, curious about how your metabolism works. Women of different ages are more interested in how can I eat food that creates or enables my system to create more collagen, for instance, naturally, right? Or if so, there, I think that kitchen now cooks and cooking itself have a lot of potential to show the real value, the intellectual value behind it, the knowledge value behind it, and of course the love above all. But what I want in our future conversations is to explore those different spheres surrounding the act of cooking. So we have a few minutes left. I just want to extend my appreciation and gratitude to you guys. We will resume the conversation soon and continue all these topics that we've mentioned, but this was just a tiny introduction for people interested in food, people interested in cooking, people interested in capitalism as well as and find ways to revalue some aspects that the capitalistic world is not showing us as valuable, as important as I do believe we should be doing. Do you have something you want to share before we close our first episode?
Thank you very much for having me. I really love the interview, and I'm happy to see you, Michelle. I hope with this is an excuse to see each other more often.
Happy Valentine's Day for you two as well, and for the ones who would watch this episode.
Thank you. See you soon.